Hey everybody, welcome back to the Recap mini-series. This is Augie with Outside the Chapel podcast. I work for Icon Ministry. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to share this again. For those of you who don't know what the Recap mini-series is, this is just for those who are impatient like myself, waiting for season 14 to start. I went back through some of the past episodes that we have from any season and kind of weaved together a theme that we could reflect on. So for this week, we are going to be looking at something that I think a lot of Catholics can relate to, especially Catholics who, were cradle Catholic, raised, in Catholic families and have been going to Mass their entire life. And that is losing that sense of awe, losing that sense of reverence, and it just kind of becoming a tick the box routine where we do on a weekly basis. It's just another Mass. It's just another rosary. It's just another prayer. How do we combat that? And how do we also just acknowledge that this is a real fact? So to kick this off, there is just a brutally honest clip where Fr Rob shares how he even struggles with this. And it's happened to him where he was so, regularly in front of Jesus in the Eucharist, where there kind of became a comfortability that led to a lack of awe, a lack of reverence. So let's take a listen to this brutally honest moment that Fr Rob shares.
But as I continued in my relationship with him, and as I would speak to him, they became like almost a beautiful familiarity with God. But it went to an extreme for me as well, where I felt in my heart, which was wrong, but it was part of my journey. Yeah. Where even when I went to a church, I didn't feel I needed to genuflect because I know Jesus. I'm always speaking to Jesus. So in a sense, throughout my journey, there was a moment where I lost the sense of awe of God. Now, I was still in relationship with God. I still loved God. I still loved Jesus. I still spoke to Jesus. But I lost that sense of awe. And what a beautiful moment for Peter, James, and John to regain that sense of awe of their friend and to realize, hey, hold on, I'm your friend. And when in our youth group, there were people used to call like Big J or J Dog, call Jesus, this, which is not who Jesus is. Yeah. But now to the point where it is like, remember, I am God, and I'm not just your friend. I'm God, but it's the same Jesus.
That loss of reverence, that loss of awe, it's not something that typically just hits you by a storm and is gone. It's gradual. It's little by little. I kind of expressed, or at least I hope I expressed at the beginning, that this is something that I struggle with as well. And I think definitely as of recent, having 3 toddlers and going to Mass, it's been really, really difficult to approach the Mass with that sense of awe and reverence. A couple weeks back, I probably had the worst Mass that I've ever had as a parent, where it just felt like everybody was having this, nutritious spiritual moment, and I was in the back dealing with the tantrums and needing to go to the toilet and playing with the toys and, fighting with another kid, and the parents around us just kind of being like, this is tough. I'm ready for this to be over. And I could be mad, but at the same time I was like, I feel you, buddy. And that it was really, really tough. And so what are we going to do about it? Do we just drift into just accepting that that's what my Mass experience is going to be like as the kids grow up, or do I really fight to bring that reverence back? And so I decided to fight a little bit this last Sunday, and I'm really, really happy I did. I spoke to my wife, who's a great partner in my faith journey, and I just said, look, I know that we want to sit together as a family, but can we try something different this week? Maybe we won't do it every week. Maybe it won't work every week. But this week, what we're going to do is we have 2 young girls who are capable of sitting inside of the Mass. So how about instead of sitting in the back in the kids' room, these 2 are going to have to sit at the very, very front with one of us. And like the goal of that group, that cohort, is to, just get those, our kids prepared to, be respectful in the liturgy and to listen and to explain what's going on, whispering to them, this is when Jesus, this is when the bread turns into Jesus. And look, this choir, they're singing a psalm, and a psalm is in the Bible, and we listen to three different, just breaking down the liturgy, while the group in the back, the cohort in the back, was my youngest toddler and one of the parents, where, we only had to, that parent only has to worry about one of the kids who is just completely incapable of enjoying the Mass at the moment, or reasoning at any capacity to, hey, short-term pain, long-term gain. Like, if you just don't cry or scream, we'll give you a present. Nothing like that. He's too young. So he's just going to do what he's going to do. And so we did that this last week, and I'm really, really glad we did. And it led both groups, no matter where we were, we reported back a sense of reverence and enjoying the Mass, and feeling like coming up with the plan before the Mass was kind of a part of the buildup, and it really helped in a lot of ways. There's one way, if you're a parent out there and you're struggling with Sunday Mass and feeling like it's ticking a box. I hope that something in there sparks an idea for something that you can do with your family. Let's go into clip 2, where Jess and Father Rob share a little bit about, things that they do in their routine to make sure that their prayer life doesn't get stagnant, doesn't lose that sense of awe, and how they implement steps to get that sense of reverence back. Let's take a listen.
I love to highlight and write my Bible. I don't know what you think about that as a priest, but it really helps me to engage with the scripture.
My Bible is all highlighted. It's all written. Absolutely. And I often talk about how important.
Yeah.
But this is your preparation. Like the rhythm is quite important.
Yes, yeah. And so I listen to worship music. I read scripture. I've got stuff going on in my mind, or if I feel the Lord talking to me, I'll write it down in a journal. But that would be the basis of how I would talk to the Lord each morning.
And but I need more preparation than that. So I actually,
how do you do it?
So what I do is the night before, I have a prayer room when I'm home. So this is not when I'm home, but this is only when I'm home. I open my Bible on the page where I think like I want to prepare myself to read. I usually read through a book of the Bible. So for example, I'm reading through Galatians at the moment, and I'm studying Galatians, and I have commentaries. So I spend like 10-15 minutes reading, and then reading commentaries. Then I do my office of readings, and then I spend some moments in silence. I have so much to do. I end up praying an hour, but and then I spend moments in silence. But I need to prepare, because otherwise I'm looking for pages. Otherwise I'm trying to figure out what to do sometimes. And I have to make sure, of course, it's about spontaneity. Of course, it's about conversation. But if you're praying every day and you're speaking to the Lord every day, sometimes you need a rhythm, like you're saying. You need something to move forward. And so I do need to prepare myself for that.
Hopefully at this point in the episode, your brain is working and you're finding ways to, first of all, resonate with that feeling of losing awe from time to time, or knowing that it is a possibility, and hopefully coming up with some solutions, whether it's something specifically that we said in this episode, or maybe something that we said led to a thought process that leads you to realize how you can recover that sense of reverence. So we're going to go into the final clip for this episode. It's a beautiful moment where, our hosts, they talk about when Peter first sees the resurrected Christ. And Peter does something very symbolically in this moment to approach Jesus with reverence. And remember, last time he saw Jesus, he denied him 3 times. And so, that's just something to keep in mind, where he had every right to maybe come upset or distraught, but Peter, in this symbolic gesture, chose reverence. Let's take a listen.
He put on garments because he had garments. So what you're saying before is that he was half expecting Jesus to come.
Well, you kind of are ruining my great my great insight here into what I thought it was. But this would be more of a personal revelation, or a theory, perhaps. But it's interesting because it doesn't make sense, right? If you're in a boat and then you're going to jump out and swim, clothes are going to weigh you down. It's harder to swim with clothes on. But it says that Peter put his clothes on.
And then jumped in.
I'm like, that's the opposite of what he should do. So I'm like, okay, why did he put his clothes on? And I was thinking, well, when was the last time that Peter jumped out of a boat? When he walked on water. So I'm like, maybe he was expecting, there's Jesus, here's me, I have faith. What if I'm going to walk on water. And so he puts his clothes on and then steps out. And to be fair, I don't think it says whether he walks on the water or swims to shore.
Yes.
Right? So
but it says he jumped in, so he
yeah,
wouldn't.
I mean, we're presuming he probably didn't walk on water.
But he would have. But like, again, who knows? Who knows?
So just how we can drift out of reverence by small little habit steps, we can drift back into reverence. What are you going to do this week? Are you going to light a candle before you pray? Are you going to switch up your Sunday routine? What is it? Is it something that we said in this episode, or have you come up with an idea of your own? I encourage you this week to just try to implement it. Try to approach the liturgy this coming Sunday with 10%, 20% more reverence than what you usually would. How are you going to do that? What does that look like? Don't do the full 100%. Just what's that baby step look like of, okay, I can approach and prepare my heart with reverence a little bit more this week. My name's Augie. I hope you enjoyed the recap mini-series episode 2. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another one. You can head to outsidethechapel.com if you want to link up with our socials or find us on YouTube or listen to more episodes. Totally up to you. God bless. See you guys next time.